I guess say what he's gonna say. I can't imagine.
Okay, I got all three of you?
Yep.
Gotta call the PI.
Okay, now I'm going to add the PI, so hang on.
Just wind.
Okay, we there?
Yep.
Okay, we've got Karen and Katie too, James.
Okay, first of all, we got to get the elephant in the room out of here. Why am I not hearing from you guys anymore? Why can't I get a hold of you for the last 2 weeks?
You have not tried to contact me.
I've left voicemails with your sister. I've expressed to Justin. In fact, your mom called me 4 days ago and said she didn't know why nobody would talk to me or call me. So you guys have not reached out to me.
You haven't reached out to me. You told us when you had information, you would call us. And
Okay, so how about everybody else on the phone?
James, this is Katie. This is Katie. I'll just speak for myself. I've got to protect my own little family here. We've already been through massive trauma, me and my own little family. And I'm also working closely with Candace, and she's going kind of a different direction. So I'm trying to respect that. But you were more than welcome to get in touch with my mom, and I think that you did. So I don't have a problem here.
Okay, so why didn't you return? I left messages for you, right? I mean, you obviously got those. And
Yeah.
You're the one that hired me.
Well, and I talked to my mom. They're the ones that hired you. And I talked to my mom, and she talked to you. So I figured that she was in contact with you.
They talked to me one time because they hadn't heard from anybody. I mean, if you guys, if there's some sort of an issue here, please let me know what it is so I can work through it with you. Because I'm going to be very blunt and honest in this conversation. It might offend you guys, but you guys have been doing this your way, and you don't have squat. And I've got stuff here that I can't believe that you guys won't talk to me about. I've finally talked to the police, which have called you guys liars. I've talked to every police enforcement officer that's worked with you, with the exception of the sheriff of Elko County, which is scared to death of me. And this also involves other people. So I'm not sure where we're at with this. I hope we're all on the same team. For example, why would he call you a liar? Why did he call the family a liar? When I talked to that one, who was the police officer that was supposed to interview, just so I make sure I have it right here, and then we'll get off this subject, I promise. And then I'm going to give you the information I think you guys must have. Who was the police officer that was supposed to have interviewed Kurt? Told you he interviewed Kurt, and then when I talked to Kurt, told you that was a lie, and he's like, oh, yeah, we never interviewed him. Who was that guy?
That was on, gosh,
I think it was
2 weeks ago, Thursday.
Was it Fisher? Blower?
Fisher was in the meeting.
It was Blower, Candace.
Blower.
Yeah,
Okay, Blower.
Blower. Yeah.
Okay, I told Blower that story, and he says you guys are totally full of shit. He says there was never any conversation with him. There was never any, hey, because I said, well, you know, Mr. Blower or Detective Blower, whatever his name is, if I offended you by talking to Kurt and telling the family that you didn't interview him, that's not my fault. I says, if you told that family you interviewed him and I interviewed him first and you got caught in some sort of a lie or miscommunication, what the hell are you talking about? Because I never had a conversation with anybody about me not interviewing them. He says, we never said that we interviewed him when we didn't. I mean, if I didn't know better, and I believe you guys, if I didn't know better, I think you're all batshit crazy. And him and I went over that. We went round and round. I had got a threatening phone call from an Elko cop pretty much telling me to butt out or else. And I said, or else what? The fuck you gonna do? They have a sheriff there. So are we all aware of the militia group? And I told Justin about this. Are we all aware of the group that your son was part of in the middle of the night that was going around policing the area against theft? Are we aware of that?
How can you verify he was part of it?
How can I verify that? Because I've spoken with 3 people that saw the group. There's a school teacher in town, the sheriff of Elko, who's got some sort of indigenous name, a Mexican name, knows well about this. Ty knows about this. Justin, have you filled them in on Ty?
Yeah, Ty's the guy from Wells. His wife has cancer.
Yeah, he knows about the group. He knows that he was involved in it. It's a reason he wasn't coming back to the house and sleeping. It makes sense. Now, was I there? No. But as long as we're all aware of that. So here's what just happened about 2 hours ago. A woman called me, and I've got her name and everything. And depending on how this will go, you guys tell me what to do with it. But a woman called me about an hour and a half ago, okay? Okay, she told me they have 35 legitimate residents, so less than 200. I mean, I've been on football teams with more. So here's the deal. Someone calls me crying, like I said, 90 minutes ago. She says that when an elderly person or a child is sexually or physically abused, she works for the state and she goes in and she talks with them. If they're neglected, if somebody leaves an old person with diapers on and doesn't deal with them, there must be the 200 people that live in that town. I would say probably 140 of them have to be living in sheds. She explained to me that these people have no running water, that they have no toilets, that they don't have any way to cook food, and they're living in sheds, which is what she described. Now, I looked her up. She did work for the state. She's 100% legit, no criminal record. And I'm going to get her over to you guys, but she didn't know who to call. She tried to call the police. She tried to call this number. There must be 15 numbers on the Facebook page until she finally reached me. And she says, I don't know what to do. I says, well, tell me your story. She says, today there was a guy who lives in that area. He lives in a shelter, in a shanty, in some sort of a shed. And he was so full of shit and piss in his own chair and his diapers that they called out her group. So they call out these victim rights advocates, and they come out there like they would for an abused housewife. They come out there with the police. This guy's in his 70s. He's bed sores, I mean, as bad as you could possibly imagine. So she gets called out there with the nurses and everybody to go out there. When she goes out there, this guy is talking about Dylan Rounds. Guess who his buddy is? Troy Wadsworth. So this girl doesn't follow the story, doesn't know Dylan Rounds, couldn't care a shit less what goes on in the media, and she's sitting here this morning listening to this elderly man in his own feces because he's a registered sex offender. She doesn't want to have to help him, but she has to because her job dictates, because he's an elderly person that's been neglected in this shed, which, by the way, he doesn't own. It's owned by somebody else. That this Hornbeck fella, she has to go out there and find out why he's being treated the way that he is. And all he wants to talk about is Dylan Rounds. And they did the same thing to Dylan Rounds that they did to those three women. And I says, man, you got to tell me who these three women are. So Troy Wadsworth in 2018 had a steady girlfriend for quite some period of time. I think he dated her for, several years. He had locked her in a shed. The shed was in the middle of nowhere. She wasn't allowed to leave. He also made her, now, when I got a phone call from Kurt's, I believe it was either his sister or his daughter, whoever the one is whose husband's bad-mouthing me on Facebook, which I still haven't seen. She told me, I says, well, isn't your uncle a registered sex offender? And she said, no, he's not. It was just some stuff where he was talking to some girls from out of state online. That's about 5% of the story. So what happened with Troy Wadsworth is Troy Wadsworth had one of these sheds like this old man is in. And this old man knows him because they're both registered sex offenders. So what happened was Troy Wadsworth had this girlfriend that he locked in that shed for the last 2 years of their relationship. She wasn't allowed to leave, chained in there. He would give her jugs of water. Now, this goes back to what Justin says about him coming out and talking about water. And what he would do is if they did not do... excuse me, Kurt. What Kurt said about to Justin.
Talking about him shitting himself, and they're just giving him just enough water.
Okay, so just enough water. So this is why this story resonates with a nurse that has no idea about anything. What he would do is he would bring out jugs of water to this girlfriend of his, this Troy Wadsworth guy. He would bring out these jugs of water to this chained up woman, and he would put it on a stand. He would, if she didn't do things sexually for him that also involved other women and other men, he would poke holes in the water. Now, this is all documented through the fucking cops there. If the cops tell you they don't know about this story, they're fucking lying. And I am trying desperately with every favor I can to get copies of this paperwork. So when these cops tell you that this is bullshit from a private investigator 5 states away, you could show it to them because they're all fucking lying to you. So he would poke holes in the water and let the water run and would leave her out there for increments of 3 to 5 days. Finally, he got sick of her and he says, I will let you go if you contact 2 other women or another woman or another guy and get them to come to the trailer. His girlfriend at the time, who I believe's name was, that's where he got in trouble online. It was the only charge as a registered sex offender he ever occurred. So what he did was he made his girlfriend contact these women, and they got 2 women who were in an abusive situation to come. One was a mother, one was a daughter. The daughter was underage, the mother was of age. Now he's got captive 3 women in this shed. He kept the 2 women and the little girl for 4 months together until the mother of the girl, not his girlfriend, and I'll give you their names and everything here in a minute, ran away and went to the post office. Is there a post office in that town, a small little post office?
Yeah.
So wherever his shed is was close enough to that post office. I don't know the town. When she got to the post office, they contacted child services and several people, and that's when the cops came. And she was so terrified of this man. Now I says, well, where was her family? Where was her parents? Where was this little girl's parents? They had nobody that would be missing them. The problem here is Dylan Rounds has people that are missing him. So they come up with this story. The sheriff's department gets in the car. They go to the fucking shed. There's the woman. They get her out of the shed. Troy Wadsworth is nowhere to be found. So they get the story, but the 3 women are so terrified from what they've gone on through. The only thing they can charge Troy Wadsworth with is getting that little girl to come across state lines to stay in the shed. They wouldn't show up for court. They wouldn't press charges. And all the police have are 3 disheveled women, by the way, barefoot. So what they say he does, and this resonates with your son, is he makes you take off your shoes. If he puts you in a shed and he keeps you captive, he pokes holes in the water. He makes sure that the only way that you can have anything to do with him is when the water runs out, they've got to constantly go back. It's kind of like almost like an hourglass. The other thing he does is, go ahead.
There's a shed here in town.
Well, I don't know where the shed is, but where the cops know. If the cops don't fucking know, they're lying. And the other thing, too, is that what he will do is he removes the shoes of his captors. And what they do when they remove the shoes of the captors is that way it's hard to escape. They used to do that in Vietnam, my father said. When they would capture soldiers, they would take their shoes because you don't have shoes, you can't walk through the jungle. Now, I don't know what it's like out there, and I got to imagine, but when that woman made it to the post office, her feet were so tore up she had to go to the hospital. So she just grinned it and bared it and ran. So this is what he was busted for. Now, his brother was his helper. They don't believe this ever stopped. This has been going on. So I believe, and this is kind of a distant thing, that it might have even something to do with the other boy that's missing out there. I think they might have come upon him late at night. I think they got him too. So this is one of 2 things. This is either has something to do with a discharged firearm, which would explain why they did the car, or maybe one of both. You know, maybe they had him out there for a while because nobody really knows when he went missing. So she's texting me right now all the information on these cases. Here's the problem. She will lose her nursing license. She violates every HIPAA law that's out there, but she is so distraught by this that she goes, I had to call somebody. She goes, I don't know what to do. I says, can you get me? I says, where are those 3 women at now? She goes, well, 2 of them changed their names and moved out of town. And the other one moved away from town, but is still somewhat in the area. She goes, they were so scared of these Wadsworths. I says, can you get me on the phone with those 3 women? I want these women to tell me and this family the story of how they were held captive by Troy and his brother. And she says she'll have them on the phone with me tonight. The problem is I can't get a hold of you folks to get you on the phone with these people so that you can track this down, because I think that this is your best bet if he is still alive. The problem here is this comes down to 2 people, and I've been through them all, guys. This is the last thing I'm going to say. This isn't helicopters. This isn't on horseback. This isn't rednecks with shotguns. This isn't going to people's house. This involves 2 people. That guy's arm should have had photographs taken of it 2 weeks ago. Why somebody won't go up to him and say, Troy, let me see your fucking arm. Take out their cell phone and bing, ding, 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 ding is beyond me. The other thing that should have been done 2 weeks ago is somebody should have went up to Kurt and said, Kurt, I need your cell phone. And I talked to the police about this. They gave me every excuse. Let me see your cell phone. If Kurt doesn't have anything wrong or anything nasty with your son, then all the text messages from the last 2 years or however long they've known each other should be on there. If he's deleted that phone and wiped it, well, then he's hiding something, and those things can be taken into account and later picked up. They can be found again. if all of the text messages are on there, it would be pretty interesting to see what their communication was like over the last 2 years. If in the last 2 years, as I told the detective, they go, well, that's not a crime. They go, he doesn't have to turn over his phone. No, but you can ask about it. He goes, well, I'm 300 miles away. I says, I'll tell you what. I will hire a drive service to come over there and pick him up and take him, put him in a hotel, and bring him back the next day. They wouldn't do it. The cops wouldn't do it. Kurt was probably willing to do that. And if he wasn't, it would be interesting to hear him decline. If Kurt will not show you his cell phone and his 2 years or however long of text messages with your son, then there's a problem. Okay, then there's a massive problem. And like I told the cops, they go, well, what would be the crime? Let's say there's a bunch of text messages. If he said something to that boy 2 years ago that you look hot in those pants, or I'd like you to suck my cock, or have you ever been with an older man? That's a fucking crime because he's 17. They can arrest him on the spot if he's got text messages to a 17-year-old boy that are lewd, whether anything happened or not.
Okay,
They said, well, we heard today through Justin that he does have scratches on his arm. Have you been down there? No, it's too far. I says, well, why don't you call somebody from Elko and have Elko go do it? Well, it's not Elko, it's these guys. It's not these guys, it's these guys. And they said, well, we were also told not to deal with the private investigator. I said, by whom? Who told you that? They won't tell me. So somebody in the family told them not to deal with me. Now, I don't know who that is. That might just be another lie or an excuse, but I haven't heard from anybody. So no matter what's going on here, no matter what the scenario is, it involves two people and two bits of evidence. That scratched up, clawed up arm and that cell phone. And I don't care how many helicopters or horsebacks or searches you do, the only two things you need to search are that arm and that cell phone, and this will tell you exactly what happened. Because if they deny you that, then that's where we're at. Now then what? So what? Take me through the scenario. He says, no, I'm not showing you my phone. Well, then you tell me how that goes. I could tell you what I'd do. You know, I could tell you what that would tell me. You know, he thinks you're his buddy. I'm sorry? No, I would ask him, I'd say, hey, Kurt, listen, because by the way, Kurt's family's reached out to me several times. They call me all the time to tell me what a fucking great guy he is. And every time they call me, I says, why don't you have me tell him this, let me see his cell phone. Let's go on FaceTime, let me look through his text messages. Bang, they'll hang up, and then somebody's husband goes on and badmouths me on Facebook. I don't get on Facebook and do that kind of shit because that's not what this is about. So this is very simple. Kurt may be your friend as long as you allow him to be. I think you're to
beat the shit out of him.
I'm sorry?
I threatened to beat the shit out of him when he asked me why we followed Troy out of town. So
well, let me ask you this. What about his cell phone? Will he show you his cell phone?
I doubt it. I bet he won't even talk to me. He won't even come close to me.
How about the sheriff's department there? Will they ask for his cell phone?
They're not here.
There's no local police in town?
Oh.
No, not at all.
If the police contacted me right now, I could tell them that I have a tip that he was talking lewd to a minor 2 years ago. That's within the statute of limitations. We've got him 5 ways on Sunday.
So why don't we have the police call you and you tell them you have a tip?
I've got 10 tips. They won't get on the phone with me because somebody from the family told them not to deal with a private investigator anymore.
Are you talking about Elko or Box Elder?
All of them. All of them. I've spoken with all of them. In fact, the only one that ever called me was a sheriff's officer in Elko, and he was pissed. And his exact words were, you're telling the family that these two missing boys are connected, Aiden and Dylan. And I says, no, I didn't. I said there's similarities, not that they're connected. There's also a guy for the Department of Transportation who says that he saw that boy Aiden on the side of the road. As soon as now his wife I've spoken to 15 times, but his shoes were off. See, there's something to do with it. There's too many similarities amongst these people that are missing.
Hey, I'm going to stop you right there.
Sure.
If you actually followed that case and what was going on, they tracked him with his shoes off, with his shoes on. He kept taking them off, and then they would see where he sat down in the dirt, and he put them back on. There is no similarity with him taking off his shoes and putting them back on. He would come to a road, he would take them off and cross the road, and he would sit down and put them back on. There's no similarity.
So you're the one that's been talking to his mom about me?
No, I haven't talked to his mom anything about about you. Only thing
Oh, have you spoken to his mom?
Yeah, I spoke to her mom, but it had nothing to do with you.
His mom is full of shit. First of all, she just got out of a mental facility the last 4 days. Just got off the phone with her.
Hang on. We're going to go back to the subject. Either we have information, you get us these people's number, we call, we reach out to them, or the conversation's over. Because we can talk circles for hours. We've been doing that for 2 weeks. We need the information.
You know, ma'am, the only one that's been talking in circles is you. You're the only one that's been talking in circles. You're right around to where you started. I'm telling you to go look at the cell phone and to look at that guy's arm, and you guys are doing podcasts.
You said you had people's information. Give it
I
to
looked at his arm and I told the sheriff to look at his arm
Did you take a picture of his arm,
the
Justin?
day before we. No, I didn't.
Why not?
Because I was recording what he was saying to me, I think.
Are these people scaring you guys? Are they that scary out there? Are you afraid to I mean, I don't think Justin is, but everybody else in that town seems to be terrified of these folks.
Justin, did you see scratches when you looked at his arm?
Yes, I did, and I told.
Okay, there you go. That's your son's fucking fingernails. I mean, Jesus Christ, guys. I mean, where else did he get them from?
Do not tell us that is our son's fingernails, because
It's your son's fingernails, ma'am. You need to get your head out of your ass.
I am done with this call. I am done.
Good. Go back to your fucking podcasts then.
Let me call him.
Hang on, Candace is gonna call me.
I'm sure she is.
That went well.
Yeah,